Welcome to the CIO series, bringing together IT leaders who are driving modernization at SAP-centric organizations. Joining us today is Eric Zenner, Vice President of IT at Greenskies, and Alan Manuel, Chief Product Officer at Proterra.
Eric, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining me today to tell your story about your transformation to the cloud in SAP S/4HANA. I'm very interested in your story, and I'm sure those of you who are out listening to the video right now are interested as well. Why don't we first begin by you and your organization, Greenskies. Tell us what Greenskies does. I see a virtual background there, so I think we have a hint that we can guess what you guys do. But why don't you go ahead and just tell us what the company does and then what your role is.
First off, yeah, thanks for having me, Alan. I'm looking forward to our conversation. You're right behind me, you can see what we do in a nutshell. We are a commercial solar developer. So that means that we build systems like the one you see behind me for companies and municipalities all over the country. Essentially, our offering is we are able to build large systems on rooftops or the ground for no upfront cost to our customers. And what's happening there behind the scenes is we have a fully integrated platform that accounts for sales, financings, of which we've financed almost $1 billion over our lifetime, engineering, procurement, and construction to get these projects built. And then once solar projects are built and operating, we have teams across the country that own and operate our solar systems. So in a nutshell, that's what we do. In the commercial solar space, we are top 5 in the US.
Wow.
And we've actually done more historical installs than just about anyone else in our space in the US. So we're very proud of that. We've worked historically with several Fortune 40 companies. So you'll see us on the buildings of large companies across the country, down to small municipalities in the Northeast in California. We basically operate everywhere where solar is feasible and profitable, which is 15 states in the US. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to, our motivation is building more green energy systems, building more solar across the country, and trying to support a greener planet. So that's what gets us up in the morning and gets us working on these fun technology projects.
Eric, that's great. Why don't we dive right into it? For those out in the audience taking a look at making that journey from SAP, from where they are today to SAP S/4HANA, I'm sure they are interested in, for an organization like yourself, where did you start and where you ended up? So why don't you first begin with what was the origin of your IT landscape and where you are today with SAP S/4HANA?
Definitely. Let me first start with where we're at right now, what we've been able to build up, and then we can speak to that journey of getting there because it's a good intro. So what we've been able to set up over our existence, we started in 2008, and for 5 or 6 years, like most small businesses, we were growing in Excel and in disparate systems. But around 2014, we stopped, we paused, and we realized that we needed to make the journey to fully digitize our landscape. So fast forward to now, what we've been able to set up is an end-to-end software management system for the solar projects that we build. What that comprises of is a full custom data warehouse and application set that we've built in-house. That's essentially what it boils down to is our project management system. That's our bread and butter that we've built out because we know it best. Alongside that, we run S/4HANA. Those two systems, the project management system and S/4HANA, are fully integrated, sending data back and forth. And on top of that, we have a reporting suite, all of which run on AWS and are supported by you all at Proterra.
Eric, that's great. Why don't we dive right into it? For those out in the audience, I'm sure they are interested in, for an organization like yourself, what was your path to SAP S/4HANA and why did you choose that path?
Yeah, great question. We're certainly unique in our industry and at our size to be running S/4HANA. The journey really goes back to that pause in 2014, 20, and 2015 when we were trying to decide, we see ourselves growing in an industry and we're trying to decide, how do we differentiate ourselves? How do we stay ahead of the curve? Because as we looked around and surveyed the landscape in solar, we were seeing competitors boom and bust. It's a very cyclical industry. You have to be able to ride those waves up and down. And a lot of folks weren't doing that. So we tried to say, what are we going to do different so we don't end up like them? And what we decided to do was to emphasize process and technology, because ultimately what our customers care about is saving money. They don't care about who creates their electrons. They want the cheapest electrons or energy possible. And we realized we really know the process well. How can we use technology? How can we use systems to enforce those processes and drive down costs and keep costs down?
Okay.
So we went that route, and we whiteboarded all of this back in 2014 and implemented that vision. It started with our core process, which is solar commercial project management, which we built out in a custom data warehouse with custom applications. So we got all that built out. Once we were there, we knew we needed to replace our old legacy construction software that we'd been on for 5+ years. So we looked out there and we said, who's doing it best right now, and who's going to allow us to stay ahead of the curve, because they're as much focused on innovation as we are. And what we saw was that in S4, SAP was starting to evolve their ERP for what seemed like the first time in a while. And we were really excited that we could get onto S4 and then grow with it and start to utilize more tools that they were consolidating into S4, the software itself, and instead of having to buy best in breed softwares and try to piece those together with our small lean team here. So how did that work out, you might ask? We've seen that over the years, since 2015, our operating portfolio and our essentially operations have grown 600%. Over that time, we've only had to double our workforce to accommodate. So we've been able to keep OpEx low and keep our costs down and still hit our margins and really thrive in the commercial solar industry.
Wow, so that's a fantastic story. I mean, recognizing, first of all, the cyclical nature of your industry, and then trying to step back and say, how are we going to differentiate? You know, what is it that our customers are really looking for? That focus on really the most efficient green electron, I guess, would be one way of looking at it for those organizations that are going green, but want the best value for their dollar. And then really having the maturity to say, you know, let's invest in a technology and a platform that's as innovative as we are. That's really a fantastic story, and it looks like it's paid off. I think you mentioned a 6x increase in your portfolio with the 2x workforce increase. So that's really, I guess, a testament to the vision that you had and really the results. Now, you talked about implementing SAP S/4HANA. To our customers, that's part of the equation. The other part is also the cloud piece. Okay, so the other part is, you know, I'm running my SAP probably in an on-premise environment, maybe with a managed service provider, but I'm looking at maybe making that leap to the cloud, maybe with SAP S/4HANA or not, but they are looking at making that transformation to a cloud organization or a digital organization. Talk to us a little bit about that. When you thought about your cloud transformation, what were you trying to accomplish with that?
Yeah, good question. It was a slow process. So all of our systems started on-prem in a data center. And what we realized first off was that scalability was becoming an issue right away. Like I said, it's a boom and bust industry. Work comes and it goes. We pride ourselves on being able to scale up and down our workforce. And with that, we needed a technical stack that could scale with our operations. What we were able to realize is that just a year after going onto the cloud with all of our reporting systems, we were not using the significant amount of resources that we had dedicated for that environment. So we were able to take down one whole system, a significant amount of resources, and across our cloud spend, we reduced it by 15%, just because we were there, we were scalable, and we were able to take advantage of what we were using and what we weren't. That's number one. We saved money.
Eric, that's great. Actually, a lot of customers that we work with when we talk to them about what they're trying to accomplish with their cloud transformation, the first thing that comes up is cost savings. So it's fantastic that that was really one of the first benefits that you realized, that 15% cost savings, very, very much in line with what we see when we're talking with other customers. But go ahead, back to you.
Yeah, outstanding. What we were surprised by is the other key and more important benefit that came up was flexibility. We knew, we had expected we would save some money. What we didn't expect is the ability to turn systems on and off and how much that would benefit us. The best story there is really two different, to tell you about a tale of two different upgrades that we went through.
Okay.
One was when we were in the data center before the cloud. And during that time, an upgrade of our standalone HANA environment took 10 weeks. It required on-site communication and coordination with HP, because we actually needed to upgrade the physical appliance. So that actually 10-week timeline turned out to be a 12 to 14-week timeline, significantly delaying everything we wanted to do on that upgraded HANA appliance. Fast forward 2 years later, we needed to go through the same upgrade, and now that standalone HANA appliance is sitting in the cloud. When we went through that upgrade, that 12 to 14-week timeline was reduced down to 4 weeks, and we cut our cost by 80%.
Wow.
Upgrade to upgrade. So
wow.
It's not something we honestly anticipated. We knew there'd be some time savings and being able to stand up environments quickly on the cloud and upgrade quickly, but we were just blown away by that impact.
Yeah. And again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I do hear that as well from other organizations that we work with. They went in thinking, I'm going to save some money on cloud, and that happens. But then what really brings it home is the ability to be, as you said, more flexible, that flexibility to meet changing business needs. You know, in your specific case, you went from a 12-week upgrade to I think you said a 4-week upgrade. So that means whatever the change was, whatever was that new business process or set of processes that you needed to support, you could be in market with them 2 months earlier. A lot can happen in 2 months. So imagine you're planning a new aspect of your business, or you're trying to meet some kind of change in the market or change in customer demand, and you can act now, but your competitor can't act for 2 more months. That's a tremendous lead time that really just getting onto this more flexible platform, you can help provide that to your business users. That's really incredible. And I'm sure there's more examples of that, the ability to be more flexible and more agile on the cloud. And I think that's consistent actually with what we hear from other users.
Exactly. And one other thing there is that it's made us realize that there's a whole new world of possibilities when it comes to upgrading our standalone HANA or our S4 environment. So that upgrade, that took 2 years to make because we remembered the pain of the previous upgrade. We are now 6 months later considering the next upgrade.
Yeah, I mean, really, that aperture of the art of the possible is much broader now, which is fantastic. Eric, you convinced me, but I'm the guy, and I'm your partner, and I'm interviewing you, so of course you've convinced me, but I'm not the person you need to convince. So let's back it up a little bit. Let's talk about internally. You had to make this case for cloud transformation. How did you do that, either among the management team or the board or your peers? How did you go about making that case for the cloud? I mean, looking back, you can point to all of the benefits and all of the improvements that you have, but looking forward, when you were there 2 years ago, you didn't have that yet.
Looking back, it's easy to forget some of the challenges, but I can distinctly remember the original pitch to our board to move our appliances to the cloud. And my first pitch was very technical. I think, Alan, if you were to have heard me, you would have understood and you would have signed off. But as I preached about the cloud, I remember distinctly our VP of construction pulling me aside and saying, why the heck, he didn't use that language, it was a little worse. Why the heck do I care about the cloud? I need your team to be working on improving purchasing and scheduling. And I heard him out. He wasn't wrong.
Yeah.
So that really is where I paused and said, I'm doing something wrong here. I'm speaking as if I were to my team to sell this. So I looked at it, and I knew that I needed to speak their language, and their language ultimately came down to deliverables and output. So when I paused and I reset, what I did was I put together an 18-month roadmap that included what we could do off the cloud versus on the cloud. In that roadmap, yes, there was were some immediate delays, and the VP of construction acknowledged those. But what I could show him in the on the cloud option was that in 6, 12, 18 months, he was getting way more out of this cloud transformation than he could have bargained for. So it was about speaking their language and about looking long-term and not short-term.
And then how did you go about getting started?
Good question. So we actually started with an immediate value proof of concept, and we waited for a proof of concept that wasn't driven by our team, but one that was driven and requested by the business. In our case, that was taking 5+ years of real-time weather data from sites all across the country and loading it into our appliance. So we scaled up on the cloud, loaded this historical data, and we're able to compare that data to our actual generation to do some insights, some weather-based insights into our historicals and time that the business couldn't have anticipated because we scaled up quickly on the cloud. So we added value right away with that project, and then that opened their eyes to the cloud. It was no longer a buzzword to them. They could see the impact. And from there, we went system by system in bite-sized chunks, knowing where we could add value right away.
Yeah, Eric, I mean, so if we look at that, number one, you found your target user. I think that's a critical element of your success is among all the people that you deal with, or you dealt with and you continue to deal with, you figured out, hey, who is my real internal customer here? You know, who's going to be receiving the impact or the benefits or maybe feeling the pain of this? You kind of identified that straight out. That's fantastic. Second, I love the response. Why the heck do I care about cloud? And I think a lot of, hopefully people watching this video today, if you're in a role where you are advocating for a technology change, really think about your experience and the words that you got, which is, you know, why the heck do I as a user care about cloud? And I think you taking the time to answer that question is probably essential to your success. The long-term roadmap, fantastic. It's almost sort of like a classical change management program, which is you got to set that vision and then follow that up by those, what we would call quick hits, the proof of concept, the ability to take maybe a larger project and split it into smaller, more digestible pieces and really show that you're able to hit that milestone, you're able to make that success. And then if there's a setback, you follow it up with a success. I mean, there's going to be bumps in the road. But I think, you know, identifying that key user, speaking their language, as you said, developing that long-term roadmap, and then immediate proof of concept, those are fantastic elements to a transformation effort. Looks like it's been really successful for you. Eric, I'm sure many in the audience have sort of a high-level view of what you do, but of course we're not experts in the industry. As you go out and you're working on these projects and you're deploying, you know, your hardware all across the nation, I'm sure there's a significant maintenance or support aspect as well. And I'm sure as you are monitoring different data and you're looking at maybe where it's more effective or less effective to put these teams to go and apply their time to these installations, there's a lot of decisions that you have to make. Has the ability to really have sort of an integrated digital platform helped any of this planning process at all and bringing together maybe different sets of data, maybe project data or financial data? Have you seen that benefit in any way?
Yeah, definitely. The best way that we utilize the integrated data across our systems is we have teams across the country whose job it is to maintain our solar assets after they come online for their 15 to 20 year life cycle. And with these folks, it's a limited resource. They're internal employees. So we need to make decisions as to which solar sites they service first in real time. So what we're doing is we're aggregating system generation data, how much energy is that system producing, and we're aggregating device data as to which devices are producing well and which aren't, and combining that with financial data from our S/4HANA system and project parameters from our custom project management system, when all of those come together, our algorithm tells us which solar projects that our team needs to be servicing first to save us more money and ultimately create more energy.
That's fantastic. I know a lot of customers are looking at cloud either to reduce costs or to become more agile, but very often we hear customers talking about cloud as a basis for analytics, for integrating different sets of data and making real-time business decisions. Here, with your example, the ability to send your teams to wherever it makes the most sense, wherever it can generate the most profit for your organization in real time with integration to all those systems. I think that's just fantastic and really another testament to the value of bringing those applications onto the cloud. Let's talk about organizations that maybe have not made that change, that transformation to the cloud. Maybe they haven't made that transformation to SAP S/4HANA, and perhaps they're on the beginning part of their journey. What advice would you give those CIOs?
What I would say is everybody has this on their mind. Everybody's planning to move to the cloud, and a lot of folks are stuck in that planning phase. It can very much be overwhelming if you take it on alone. So we did that. If I rewind, my team had the task of putting together our migration plan, our migration to the cloud options, and it was paralysis by analysis. We just didn't have enough real life experience to make any decisions. So what we did is we brought in a trusted partner. It was Proterra, it was you guys, but find your trusted partner, somebody you've worked with in the past that has this experience, and take their real life experience. Because there's a lot of resources out there now, a lot of contacts that you can speak to about making this journey, and they can give you the real life advice as to how to get out of that analysis phase and move forward. So find that partner. And number two, I'll reiterate what I said earlier. It's jump in, it's get the proof of concept going. Don't wait, right? As soon as you see an opportunity, go for it, because what you'll realize is that by jumping in to the pool here, it's much easier to swim to the deep end, much easier to start to put larger, more business critical applications on the cloud after you've gotten there and after you've ran that first initial proof of concept.
Now, Eric, that's fantastic advice. Now, we work with you to do the transformation, but also we're running your SAP. So we're providing the managed service for your SAP. And for companies that are maybe looking at changing their service model as well as changing the technical platform, any thoughts on considerations for having a managed service partner to maybe work on the kind of the more technical or the mundane pieces and allowing your own organization maybe to support the business users more?
So we knew that it wasn't worth bringing that in-house, taking on the burden. And also, sure, we have a dedicated resource with you guys who we trust, who we know will give us an immediate response, but we're tapping on way more than just that one dedicated resource as we ask specialized questions about Fiori, about S4 deployments and migrations. So we get a whole wealth of knowledge by using the Proterra team more than just having one dedicated resource.
And I want to bring that into something very, very specific. You might kind of read in the literature about a company that takes on a service provider so they can react more quickly to changing market conditions. But something recently, I think, has been a very, very strong externality in your business that really, I think, could tremendously accelerate your growth. And you need to be in a position to react very quickly to that situation. I'm not talking about COVID. I'm actually talking about the wildfires that have come recently with the increased attention on the environment and the increased need, both from a retail or business perspective as well as a consumer perspective, to be more green. And how has your transformation to being in this more agile environment positioned you to be able to make the right moves? I'm not going to say capitalize on the situation, but to be able to make the right moves in this environment.
Yeah, so what we've seen is the unfortunate wildfires in California have had an immediate negative impact on our operations, right? The fires cause smoke and debris, which are reducing our system's performance. And what we're seeing on the other side, the flip side, is that customers are starting to notice that things are ever changing. There's no time to wait. They know green options are out there, but now they see the devastation that climate change can cause with their own two eyes, and they're moving much quicker to solar, to other green energy options. So what we're able to do in our cloud landscape is we're able to scale up solutions and integrate external customer facing solutions. Because I wanted to move a little bit to COVID there. We're traditionally a business that's met with folks face to face, been there on site for meetings. That's no longer a possibility. So on the cloud, we're quickly ramping up our customer facing digital efforts, all of which on AWS can easily integrate with our enterprise applications that live in the same environment.
Wow. So let's keep on that thread a little bit. Let's talk about the future. What is the future going to bring for Greenskies?
Yeah, well, the only constant in solar is change. So we are always adapting to new state regulations, new federal regulations that affect where we deploy our resources and time. So that won't change. But what we are seeing is that 40% of all new energy now is renewable. So we see the future as having more room for growth. And as costs continue to go lower, solar becomes a more cost-effective option in new regions. In addition, we are deploying new technologies. So one great example of that is batteries and microgrids. Just 2 years ago, batteries made up less than 5% of all projects, of all RFPs. Those have doubled year over year. And now we're seeing them in the 20% range. But the future estimates are even higher, where in the next year or two, they expect batteries to be on more than 50% of projects. So that's an example where we're having to react not just to state and federal regulations, but we're having to react to technical changes and stay on our feet, adapt our systems, our enterprise software to handle those new technical requirements.
Wow. So you've really gone through a number of changes here. Changes in your industry, changes in your application, your IT landscape, your cloud platform decision, as well as the technologies that are unique to your industry as well. In the preparation, you and I talked a little bit about your final words to CIOs, and you talked about change. I was wondering if you could just repeat it for those who are listening today, your final words of wisdom for anyone who's contemplating making that transformation. What are your thoughts or advice to them?
Yeah, it's that change is inevitable, but the suffering is optional. So what we found is moving to the cloud will reduce some of that suffering.
Eric Zenner, thank you so much. I really appreciated the time today and look forward to speaking with you again in the future and seeing how the industry goes forward and how you and Greenskies are reacting to take advantage of that. Thank you so much.
Great speaking to you, Alan. Thank you.